The last time we got a chance to spend a little time with Carroll Shelby, one of the things he talked about a lot was the Shelby Series 1. He's proud of this car. And in a segment about the modern dream car, the Series 1 is a great place to start. When Carroll Shelby set out to build this car, there were definitely issues that he didn't have to deal with back in the early 60s when he started his Cobra program. Well, from there, he went on to build a car that he wanted to be a top performer.
Now, I remember when you got the Series 1 in, and it was a decent looking car, but a little bit kind of kit car looking.
Right.
What was the reception like? Because I was only 10 at the time. What was the reception like from the car world of the Series 1?
Mixed, for sure. It wasn't that fast.
Okay.
To sit in the car, especially Tom, because he was fairly tall in the torso.
Yeah.
His head was like right at the windshield level. He ducked to look underneath it. It wasn't a super comfortable car.
Right.
It wasn't a real fast car. It was a good car. It was different.
Right.
You know, and it was in that sort of time period that Shelby was, I don't want to say trying to make a comeback, but it was before he was really big with Ford again.
Right. He doing his own stuff.
Right. He did the Omnis, with
he
Chrysler,
did stuff,
and did his own stuff. And then he hooked back up with Ford again and really reintroduced that whole Shelby brand with Ford.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, how did you get Shelby on the show here?
Just called him up.
From the cease and desist letter?
No. So that was kind of funny, because when we started, I don't know if you remember or not, we were the Shelby shop.
Right.
And then when we moved to Fourth Line, I got a letter from Shelby. And I thought, this is great. He's going to tell me what a good job we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And it was a cease and desist or pay him 10%. And what was funny is it was really good. It forced us to change the name to Legendary. And then we took a generic name that could mean anything, because it did pigeonhole us.
Right.
Guys weren't bringing us Ferraris when you're doing Shelbys. And so then when we got him on, I remember we picked him up at the airport because we were kind of his guide. This was for the Toronto Auto Show.
Okay.
And Rick Pickering was the guy that brought Shelby to the auto show as well. And that was part of the hook on getting him on the show is, hey, Pickering was paying for him to come to Toronto anyway.
Right,
so it was very easy to get him. And so what happened is we were his liaison. We picked him up at the airport, he and Cleo, and blah, blah, blah. And we had a bunch of Shelbys on display there. So Tom, first thing he says, Carroll Shelby, do you know Peter Klutt? And I didn't really met him before other than at a convention where we signing autographs.
Yep.
And, we say hello, and then Tom right away, because he would always say shit like he did with Earnhardt, you can kiss my ass. Well, he says to Shelby, yeah, I think you sued him, and he had to change the name of his company. First thing out of Tom's mouth. And then Shelby says, well, I've sued everybody. It doesn't matter.
That's funny. So it's not like he had any, bad taste in his mouth by any means.
It was business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Huh. So you guys were his liaison.
Yeah.
And at that time, were you guys were you a little bit starstruck that you were driving Carroll Shelby around?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, he was, our hero. And we named the company just because we did a lot of Shelbys.
Yeah.
But we thought that he was, a genius back then, what he accomplished. And until really the movie came out, Ford versus Ferrari, a lot of people didn't understand how much he accomplished.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got several prototypes running with a supercharger, and we'll probably settle on 450 horsepower, which will give you about a 3.5, 3.6, 0 to 60, which is a little better than any other production car.
Yeah. So he gave it, or someone gave it to you to drive.
Yeah.
And you had to tell Shelby that it was an awesome car.
And typical Shelby, 0 to 60 in 3-something seconds. It was not doing 3-something seconds.
Right.
But it was cool.
On first impression, Carroll Shelby obviously wanted to build a performance car. There's lots of power here. There's a big 6-speed transmission here. Shelby's original dream car was meant only to beat the Corvette. But when you're comparing yourself to modern day supercars, the competition becomes a lot more lofty.
Got a lot of real tough competition out there now.
So it cuts from the Series 1, okay, to all these insanely dangerous shots of Tom walking around Mosesport while cars are lapping to his left and his right. Who decided that he would do all these one shot, he's sitting at the bottom of corner 2 on the track, and someone comes down around the corner.
we did a bunch of stupid things, you know, back then for interesting shots.
Yeah.
And we were trying to make it different. And Tom was a track announcer, so he had pretty much free reign at Mosesport.
Right.
He had the ability to say to the guys, "Hey, you know, we just need the car or the track for a couple hours, and this is what we want to do." And he was the track announcer, so it was no problem.